I like that idea, like, of capturing something. It's like, oh, then, digitally, or if you print it, like, you have that memory or something that can at least help recall that memory. And I like that idea, that concept. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to get a camera too. And then, like I said, I was booking shows around the Boston area and Worcester areas. And I would start using I was like, well, these photos will help promote the other shows that I'm doing and stuff like that. And so, like, that was the other thing. Like, once I'm at the show, my job is kind of done. Like, I don't need to promote anymore. Like, I'm just standing around making sure nothing bad happens, and then Dave went out at the end of the night. I just stand around and, like, have fun. So I would just start shooting and taking pictures.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians, talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. I hope you had an amazing week. I most certainly did. This Vox and Hops episode is presented by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal are Montreal's premier metal promoter. They put on a bunch of amazing metal shows all year long here in Montreal. And trust me when I say this, if you are ever in Montreal and you would love to go see a great metal show, well, I can guarantee you that Heavy Montreal will have you covered. I'm beyond stoked to have Heavy Montreal behind the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. This week on the podcast, I'm extremely stoked to be with Matt Darcy, an amazing photographer. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox and Hops, episode number 477.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm very stoked to be with Matt Darcy, someone that I've been talking to for a very, very long time on Instagram. His handle there is Banana Masher. Matt, I was stoked when you hit me up. You were working as a concert photographer for over 15 years. It's probably been over 5 years since you probably sent me that first message saying that you were into the podcast and what I was doing. And you were working at Bone Up Brewing, which I got to take a moment to give my shout out to Liz and Jared, and loads of love to them for doing 2 Vox and Hops collab, but sadly last year they had to close their doors because of reasons of the beer industry being the beer industry and rent control and everything lined up like that. I don't know the true reason, but I'm sure it's one of those multiple things in the beer industry that just is difficult.
It's getting just expensive in general to be here, never mind a microbrew.
Mm-hmm. But loads of love to them, obviously. I'm stoked to be hanging out with you because you hit me up, and I've sort of changed the way that I'm booking recently, and I used to be so stressed. I'll be honest with you, Matt. I used to be stressed. I used to worry that I would run out of episodes and then not be able to drop an episode consistently. So I stacked episodes like a crazy person, like a hoarder, a content hoarder.
A lot of work it.
But it was too much, and it was too much. So now I'm just doing week by week. And you hit me up, and I was like, yeah, I got a slot. Let's do it, because you're releasing a book, Images from the Pit, a photo zine, 100-plus pages, over 250 pics from your experience of over 15 years of taking pictures in mosh pits of shows, a very, very long introduction just to say, how you doing, Matt?
It's just that. It's the first of many. Just going to be an introduction. I figured with the overall first book of, many, I was like, I'm just going to do a lot. 15 years, there's a lot to cover. Early years of learning how to shoot in low light to then going to bigger shows and going on tour. It's been a surreal journey from when I first started taking it non-seriously to now when I take it pretty seriously.
I think that's awesome. That's an important thing that people need to do, is when you start something out, you start it out because you love it, and then you continue to do it because you love it, but you start to take it more seriously, which means you're investing some money into it, you're doing some research, you're talking to other people, you're honing in that hobby into a craft, into a career, into this passion project, and it's, even after 15 years, do you still love it?
Oh, yeah, it's tons of fun. I probably have more fun around the Boston area than I've noticed other photographers. It may be the beer influence, might be the weed influence, I don't know. But I don't know. For example, when Bone Up did a collab for the Decibel Metal and Hardcore Decibel Metal and Beer Festival, excuse me, we got the red cord, and I tried to get a photo of their beer, like with them in the background. But of course, the lights, like I'm in the shadow because I'm down in the barricade in front. So I'm like, oh, I can't see it. I'm like, oh, let me just like go around side stage, and I'll get like a shot that way. And then, like, I had credentials and everything, but I didn't have an AA or like anything else. And this dude blocking the door to go backstage was like, yeah, sorry, dude. Like, I can't let you by. I'm like, that's fair. You're just doing your job. But the beer was full. And I'm like, they're only playing for so long, and I got to get my shot. So I literally chugged the beer as I'm like running down the venue, and then ran outside, ran around, went through the back door, got on, the stage, took my shots now with the empty can because I just smashed it into my camera bag, and then had to run all the way because I'm like, I can't go out that door. If he sees me, he's just going to get pissed. So I had to run back all the way back outside, back into the front, and I clipped like their last song in this process after my, but yeah, like I'll crush beer the entire time, and I see other photographers, maybe having one or two, but like, I don't know, I just like, this is fun. This is how I always took photos.
Hell yes, it is Vox and Hops, and I'm thirsty, so. Vox and Hops is all about hanging with my metal friends, talking about their lives and music while sharing craft beers. What do you got on your side today? I hope that it's a I hope that it's a Widowmaker brew. I'm assuming that it is.
Yeah, it is. It's our new Riff City American lager. It's a good one. It's imported grain from Germany. It's just to me, I think it's I don't know if this is actual marketing material, but it's like an FU to like Bud Heavy. It's just a good, clean beer, crushing. It's 420%, or 4.2%. That zero at the end might be a typo. I don't know. Yeah, since we started doing shows and everything, and yeah, this is like the opposite of their flagship Blue Comet, which is a New England hazy IPA.
Exactly.
They went the other way with this new one that's going to be around a lot. So, yeah, it's a beer for concert.
Hell yes. On my side, I'm going to be drinking something from Relais Boréale, which is a very cool little offshoot from Boreal. Boreal is like a huge macro brewery, I'm not going to lie. But it's on the micro side where they care about the beer. And their head brewer, Gab, is an awesome dude, and he basically brought haze up into Quebec pre-pandemic. About 2 years before the pandemic, he invented this hazy IPA called Le du Nord-Est, is what it's called, which means it's a northeastern IPA. He invented it. He brewed it in his garage and then convinced Boreal to put it out onto the market, which they did, and became this like sought after thing where people were trading and people were waiting in the rain trying to pick it up. So I guess it did well because they've created this little playpen for Gab here in Montreal where he has a little test system and a beautiful tap room. And this comes from there. It's their Italian Pilsner. He does a bunch of awesome beers there. And I always like to go there. It's just, they have great beer. So a little Italian Pilsner. I'm going to crack this, and I would love to hear about the very first beer that you ever drank.
First beer? I mean, I have early memories of playing beer pong with, like Bud Light or Coors or whatever. And I remember not liking it, which is funny because I'm drinking, a better version of that beer now.
Exactly.
Come around. Yeah, I didn't really like it. Didn't really like beer that too much. I was, I like my Bloody Marys, Captain Cokes. And then, I don't know, I was out to dinner with my dad one night. He was drinking a Samuel Adams Boston Lager. And he was just like, oh, have a sip. You'll like it. And I was just like, like I've had, beer before. And I never, he's like, no, this was like the good stuff. I'm like, you'll like it. And I had a sip, and I didn't mind it. I didn't exactly like it. Like, I appreciate that beer a lot more now. But I guess that was my gateway beer was the Sam Adams Boston Lager. And around that time, the craft scene wasn't exactly, like, booming, but it was, like, just starting. So there was a lot more other breweries starting to pop up And, there's always Shipyard, and that's a big one up in Maine. There's other bigger breweries all around that were starting to like gain more traction. The Mighty Night Shift was just beginning. There was a lot of beginnings all over the place. And the Sam Adams Boston Leg was the catalyst that started it all.
Hell yes. I definitely drink some of those when I'm on tour. If I'm like in a Applebee's, and there's not many other options there. Or what the most recent one I had was at it's like a hamburger place, Red Robin. Does that make sense? Is that a hamburger chain? And they had like a seasonal Sam Adams, and I had that. It was probably the last time that I had when I was on the Death to All run.
Yeah, if you're in like anywhere in the Northeast, you can find at least that one or seasonal almost anywhere. It
was drinkable. Cheers to your dad for encouraging you to try to expand your horizons. So at what point, how did this translate into you working at Bone Up? How did you end up working in beer? Let's start with that.
I just liked it so much. It was like I said, it was just starting to really blossom. So it was like a really fun time to get into beer. And as a new beer drinker, all these newer beers and styles, where this is like before like hazies were even popular. So it was fun to get to know these different beers that were not Bud Light or, a Guinness, or like the beers that you've always seen for years and years. So for not being a beer drinker, to find all this beer and all these different tastes and smells, like I had no idea what a saison was until I had, a brewery put something out, and I would just shop by the labels half the time. You had a cheeky name or like a fun label, it would get my attention, and I would grab it. Those tricks don't really play on me
anymore. No, like, is this fresh? That's the first question. When did they post that?
Yeah, now we don't grab anything off like the dry shelf or anything. But,
no, sadly. Were you like drawn? I used to, when I first started out drinking craft beer, I was drawn to different styles. I wanted to try just something that I hadn't tried before. And I remember trying that's how I had like my first black IPA. It was from Simple Malt up here. The brewery still exists, but this beer does not. I can't remember what it was called, but it blew my mind, like a malty, chocolatey, bitter experience. Just blew my mind, and I was hunting, trying to find more of it, but it was already discontinued at the point that I had it. But it was awesome, and I don't know. It's just so cool to go out. I had that experience, that trying new things and being excited and taking chances. It's fun. It's very akin to music, right? And film and art in general. But I loved it, and I still do. But I loved it, especially back then, because I wasn't as well versed as I am now. So we have our prejudices against certain breweries where we won't even pick it up.
Yeah, it's now you get to a point where you know too much, and then
it's like and I talk about it all the time on the podcast, where I go to see a show now, and I go to Cirque du Soleil with my kids, and I'm watching the show, yes, but I'm also watching all the rigging and seeing how are they doing this. I wish I could go back and be more innocent, be more naive.
Yeah, like every brewery I go to, like even my friend called it on me the other day. Like I was like kind of leaning over a little bit to see like a little bit beyond the bar. And like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just seeing how the bar works.
Just checking out how they run this.
Just seeing how the operational flow of this place works. Don't worry about it. Just I'm in my own head.
So you love beer, you step foot into Bone Up Brewing, and you're like, give me a job. What was your first job? What goes on there?
Actually, it was kind of like that. I showed up week 5 of them being open. I was going to a nice restaurant in phenomenal beer list. The dude Brian at Mystic Station in Malden does a really good job. And, I remember going in one day, I would just show up with my laptop and, just like mess around for an hour or two, drink a beer or two, and then like I would go home. And this one day he was just smashed. And he's like, sorry, dude, I can't even get you in at the bar for like at least 45 minutes. And I'm like, well, dude, like good for you, man. But I'm going to go down to this new brewery night shift. And it's like, I've only been to like, 3-4 breweries at this point. And I'm like, there's a new one right down the road. So I'll check them out. That was Bone Up. And if they suck, I'll just go down to night shifts who I already know, who are like right down. You can throw a beer can and hit them. That's how close we were. And I never made it to night shift that day. I walked into Bone Up. They were super small at that point, just like a garage tunnel all the way down. They had Red Fang or some stoner rock blaring. There was a Metallica pinball machine, and it was just like dimly lit, and the walls were just decked out, kind of like how my walls are, just like covered in just stuff. And I was like, this is kind of like, I like this place. And yeah, I became a regular at that point, and come, I don't know, several months later, I had an idea for a metal trivia night. So all the questions would be metal, like, what is Meatloaf's first name? To, like, can you put the Metallica albums in order without their years? And everyone usually gets tripped up with like Justice and Ride the Lightning and stuff. And it's funny how to see like the nerd details of, because some questions I'd burn you, and some would be easy, like what animal is on the cover of the Black Album by Metallica. So it's like, if you really, some people don't even know there's a snake in the corner.
There is a snake in the corner.
Yeah. So it'd be like all kinds of stuff like that. And so I did that for, quite a little while. And I worked in warehouses, logistics for, 10 years at that point. And the company I worked for was just pissing me off. They ripped a stereo out of my wall for a mistake that I didn't make. And so I was like, hey, it was proven that I didn't make that mistake. So give me back the radio. And that was my only sanity, was like listening to podcasts and music my entire, 10-hour shift. So at that point, I just, I remember writing Liz and Jared of Bone Up an email, and I think it was all baseball puns for, I don't know, whatever reason.
You're like, this is going to work.
Yeah, I was just like, they already knew me at this point. So like, in a cover letter is kind of moot. It's like, you're either going to hire me or you're not. And they're like, actually, we're about to hire a full-time bartender if that's of interest. And yeah, I put in my 2 weeks, and I walked into the brewery, and that was 6 years ago. Yeah, so it was, I was just, I said peace, and I just never looked back. And just jumped right on in.
Thank God that restaurant, or that restaurant with the good tap list, was so full that day. Who knows how long it would have taken you?
I only knew about Bone Up because they had their beer. They were the first draft account for Bone Up. So I was like, what do you mean there's another brewery in Everett? Because they would list the location. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Brian, like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, it's like right down the street. And I was like, oh, cool. So like, yeah, it was Mystic Station's fault. It was my dad's fault, and then it was that restaurant's fault. It was Bone Up's fault, and now it's Widowmaker's fault.
Now it's Widowmaker's, which I have to say I would consider an extremely hype brewery, and I know that they're hype. I've collabed with them, and I didn't realize at what point that they were so hype. But I know that they're hype because our local kings here in Montreal, Massorum Brassatorium, did a collab with them, and if Massorum is doing a collab with someone, it's because they're hype and great. So I think it's cool, and it's cool that you're there. And when I did Brutal North America back in 2021, I think it was, I had a meeting with Ryan and Colin, if I remember correctly, and they were great. They were very cool. They were extremely careful getting involved with the project, and they were very, very meticulous as to about what the project was about, how it would look, and it all makes sense to me now that they're just killing it. It's because they probably do that with every aspect of that brewery.
Yeah, everything is well thought, well planned. Yeah, it's going from a microbrew to a larger brewery, and it's kind of like, woo!
It's very cool.
There's a lot of metal in this room. Look at all these kegs. Holy crap.
That's very, very cool. So what do you do there? Are you still bartending, or are you doing something else now?
Yeah, just a bartender. I carried a few different hats at Bone Up, and whereas Bone Up was going more to be like a venue, while Widowmaker does do shows about once a month. We throw a rager. They're not looking to book like the local scene as often as like Bone Up. Like, we're just going to do local showcases as often as we could. So yeah, I just wear the bartender hat. I keep their main tap room in Braintree. Keep the beer flowing. Keep it in people's hands. I don't keep it flowing. production keeps it flowing.
I think it's awesome. Yeah, you pour it, I mean. You flow it into the pints.
Yeah, I flow it into fast. I put it in people's mouth.
Talk to me about becoming a photographer over 15 years now. You mentioned that when you started out, it was just in dark rooms. You didn't know what you were doing. You've grown into becoming a more
Everything
proficient.
is still the same. I'm still in dark rooms and I still don't know what I'm doing.
You said you got a little better, but... So
I upgraded my camera.
What is the story of you with the camera? Do you remember when you got your first camera?
I think I have photos dating back to like 2008, 2009 that I will release. I think there's some a little bit earlier than that. I'm like, geez, it's just way too bad. But I carried a small little CyberShot camera. I had it behind me just to like take daily photos, friends, whatever I saw, because a buddy of mine had that. And I was, oh, that's nifty. It's a small little thing, fits in your pocket. Wasn't a professional camera at all. But I was also
this was your first camera. You didn't take pictures before that.
It was like $100 Sony CyberShot. And I was just little candids. Nothing. I had no idea what like composition was or anything about light. Nothing at all. It was just like point shoot. There you go. There's a memory that's captured.
Perfect. And was that the end goal, to create memories for people or for yourself?
I like that idea, like of capturing something. It's like, oh, then, digitally, or if you print it, like you have that memory or something that can at least help recall that memory. And I like that idea, that concept. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to get a camera too. And then, like I said, I was booking shows around the Boston area and Worcester areas. And I would start using I was like, well, these photos will help promote the other shows that I'm doing and stuff like that. And so, like, that was the other thing. Like, once I'm at the show, my job is kind of done. Like, I don't need to promote anymore. Like, I'm just standing around making sure nothing bad happens, and then pave one out at the end of the night. I just stand around and, like, have fun. So I would just start shooting and taking pictures. And then one night I hit on Kino and I was like, hey, I have enough for a DLSR for once. And maybe I'll like spend money on something like cool instead of just like, something, whatever, not cool. And yeah, and since I got the better camera, that kind of opened up the doors of like what I could actually do. And, it was like a little pat on the butt, like, oh, the photos are better because I can control the camera better because it has settings to deal with harsher light better and things like that. So I've been, getting more and more into it. And it's just, like, oh, my composition, what is this? Oh, mine's really bad. I should figure out what composition is and kind of work on that. So it's just, I was always just having fun while learning how to take photographs, since I was going to these shows anyways. And these are like small shows. Like, you didn't have to get like photo credentials or any kind of pass. You could just walk right on in and take photos. Middle East Upstairs, Grace Scott, and then like all the dive venues, Simmy's Patio. I was booking shows at Honey Fitz Pub in Malden until one of my bands blew out their PA system.
And then they were like, you can't come back. You're done.
And then he's like, yeah, you can't use the PA system anymore. So I don't know what you want to do. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't have a PA system, so I guess I'm not doing shows here anymore. But yeah, it was just... I never needed a pass because I was just doing all these small local shows, maybe grabbing like, cool headliners when they would play like the cooler venues. But yeah, it was just learning and having fun while I was going to be at the show anyways. And if the photos were good and the bands liked them, like that was just like a bonus. Like, that still is.
Hell yes. Was there like someone in the scene that you would call a mentor that would help you with all this? Because you didn't go to school, you went to like the school of yeah, exactly. I was going to say that, but
literally being knocked around.
Was there a mentor in the scene, like an older photographer that showed you stuff or that opened things up for you?
Two people in different ways. There's a photographer, Reed Haithcock. He did a lot of awesome work, especially in like the smaller venues. He was kind of like the club rat guy who was like, he could appreciate that headliner band, but at the same time, like that band could be someone huge playing a small room that had no business playing that room. but he was like already that connected music guy that like everyone seemed to know. People were already using his photos, and he does phenomenal black and white work, which was already an inspiration. That's why all my band stuff is black and white. Is kind of his fault. Yeah, his work, it just blew me away. It didn't look as clean and as like perfect as you would see in like magazines or on TV or whatever. It was very different, very artsy and more expressive. And I was like, oh, dude, that's sick. And it was like, oh, then you're shooting film? Okay, so you're just a magician with a camera, and like this is nonsense. So I always liked like bumping, like seeing him at a show that I was shooting. So I'm like, dude, like I can't wait to see your photos of one, you're gonna blow me out of the water, and the bands are gonna definitely use your photos than mine. That's cool. But I was just like, yeah, he was a big inspiration on like style wise, and what shows like were really like the cool ones. And then Jeremy Schaefer, he's more of a commercial photographer now. Like, if you see a magazine, he probably took that cover shot. But while I was younger, doing stupid mistakes, using flash in venues, I shouldn't have been popping flash, or, using a fisheye and leaning my camera in when, I probably shouldn't have been doing that. Other photographers just get pissed at you and just be like, what the fuck you doing? Like, you're ruining my shots. He was like the only one that's like, hey man, like I've been doing this for a while. And like, he would just, he would politely and nicely tell you, and look at him now, he's an educator. And it's like, I saw that way back then, probably before he even was thinking about like teaching people. He was just so like calm and collected, and would just be like, hey, try this out with your camera. And I just remember him, like once in a while I'd bump into him, usually at the Palladium, and he would like shoot the shit with me, and well, everybody else was not. And I was like, oh, dude, like, you're one of the photographers that like, to me, was like, you're doing all the cool stuff that I wish I could do. And I'm just happy to be at this Palladium, this one time, and it's like, here you are, like, the house photographer for the Palladium. Like, you just go wherever you want. And, like, I'm going to see you behind Kill Switch Engage, like, as soon as towards at some point during the set, I'm like, I want to be on stage during Kill Switch. It's just like, oh, dude, like, I want to get to that level. So, like, seeing him like just start off in the same like photo pits and barricades as me, and then go off to what he's done, I was just like, wow, like he's always just been an inspiration as well, more commercially and mainstream, but an inspiration like nonetheless. His work's amazing.
Oh, I've seen so many friends of mine get shot by him that I want to get shot by Jeremy, but yeah. We have different FOMOs. But is there like a weird sense of competition in the photo pit of trying to get that best pick, that moment when the fire goes off, as an example? Is there like more than moshing in the mosh pit? Are you guys moshing in the photo pit to get?
We don't really compete. I would say do your research first to get into the proper position. Like if you want Randy's jump shot from Lamb of God during, like watch people's videos of the show before, figure out what song he's going to jump on, and then if he's...
See, that's something that me as a musician I would not think of. That's cool that you guys do that.
Yeah, so if I, we'll respect each other. If I'm already in that spot, like, I got a jump shot from Lamb of God, and because I knew he was going to do that. I saw another photographer from earlier in the tour, and I was like, all right, I just got to be here because Randy's going to jump off like that drum, or I don't know,
that thing that he has in front there.
So I got there before everyone else realized, like, oh, this is their song. He's going to do it. Like, he's going to jump, because he always does that for the media, for the photographers. And yeah, if you're not directly center, your shot kind of gets a little warped and doesn't look exactly as good if you got it front on. But it's you're not going to push the other photographer out of the way or anything. So there's mutual respect. I don't think there's much weirdness. Like we'll just see each other at the
next show. Exactly.
Yeah, so it's like we can at least be civil with one another.
If there's someone that's toxic, they won't last very long.
No. But like, yeah, we're all like trying to do the same thing, so there's some level of like competition, but we're all friendly or friends at the same time.
How about stepping into the mosh pit with all your gear? Your gear is expensive. It's basically baby. There's a risk whenever you step into a pit. And have you broken stuff in the past?
2 bodies, 3 lenses. Yep. I remember seeing Warm Rot at St. Vitus in, I think, 2018. And I had lines like right below my knees from being pressed into the stage.
That short little stage, yeah.
Like it was just, we're all smashed. And of course it's, Warm Rot, so people are just going insane. So everyone's just pushing, shoving, jumping. And I just got pushed and went slap and just, that was the lens. Like it just cracked from the body. And then, then that was it for that camera. I've shot from the mosh pits before. Sometimes like during when everyone gets tired or like the part of the song when no one's really moving.
You have to know the bands really well though.
Yes. Fortunately, I only will get, the more I know the band, the riskier I'll be.
Mm-hmm. And you must have a good sense of crowd, the vibe of a crowd.
I've been going to shows since I was like 14 or something. So I used to be, I'm a retired mosher now. So I used to be in it. So I know what's going to happen. I can hear the dun, dun, and it's like, oh, the breakdown's coming. I'm getting the fuck out of here. It's like, not because I'm a wuss. It's like, well, 1, I don't want to hit somebody with the camera. And 2, I don't want my camera to be broke. And the coolest thing is, playing smaller venues. And then you turn around, because, I'm always like snap, snap, snap. And I'll just like take a peek over my shoulder. Once in a while, there'll just be this big dude that'll just be like, I'm like, oh, what's up, dude? He's like, oh, I got you. Just take your shots. I'm like, thank you, sir.
That's sick. Protect the photographers, people. We need these pictures.
And I'm not like a small person either, but it's like, yo, I have a freaking ogre now, like being a body shield for me. Like, this is great.
I feel like you've been doing it long enough so you might know something about what I'm going to bring up, and that's photographers back in the day used to make money selling their pictures to bands and to magazines, and nowadays it's mostly expected that we're going to take it for free and just credit you. Not that I'm okay with this, but it's sort of the nature of the game right now. Is that what is your experience with that, and how do you keep doing it? I'm assuming it's with images from the pit that's coming up that to keep to make some money out of being a photographer and to pay back all these broken cameras that you got broken and lenses in the pit.
Yeah, getting paid for. And I'm a show rat. This year has been a little bit slow for me, but I'm usually at a show like once, twice. I think my non-tour record is like 5 shows in a row. It's just like I'm showing up to the same venue almost every day.
Wow.
Like,
so all the staff knows you.
Yeah, they just know me by face because it's like, oh, hey. And it's like, yeah, I'm here every week.
But there is a change, though. Back in the day, photographers used to get paid for their photos.
It still kind of works that way, but to get paid for like every band, especially death metal, grindcore, black metal, like this band doesn't even have.
No, we don't have the money. No.
So like, if you like that band, you shoot them every time they play. They don't have money. Like you'll probably get a CD and things like that, but it's
There are photographers in each city that I know that are there, and that I will on stage give them a good picture. I try to do that.
There's ways of giving back. Make sure give the goofy face, or the drummer does like the stick thing, gives you the point.
Derek Carr in Vancouver area, I always give him a good face.
The dudes from Midnight. I don't know the drummer's name. Forgive me. I caught them, and he was just like, "Hey, get over here!" And I was just like, "I'm gonna do whatever you want."
Coming on stage, buddy.
So yeah, he wanted me to go around the other side of him, and he played into me a little bit, like, "That's so cool!" Like, thank you. But then, like, that band now knows, like, I now got some pretty cool shots of the drummer, like, having some fun. But yeah, like sometimes a media source will pay me, or the band will you just got to make friends. The more you shoot a band, and then they, when you finally take some shots that they like, they're going to support you back, especially when, you're supporting their band.
Exactly. There's the album photos that we get a budget for. And that could be, is that something that interests you, doing studio stuff next, or have you done studio stuff, or is it always in the pit?
No, I've done, I was in the studio with Less Aglow twice for Nullity, and now their forthcoming album, both coming out via Pelagic Records. I've been in the studio with a few bands now. I've been on tour with Actor Observer and Glassing. And then there's been a few bands. Lesser Glow has also used some of my other landscape photography for their cover album. All of Nullity is all my photos of that album, the inside. Another band, Widow Sunday, I took a cover art photo for, a commission piece. I've been slowly getting into the other round portraits, band portraits. The band Leatherlung used a portrait of mine for the back cover of their recent release. There's been little things like that been slowly trickling in. I just did behind the scenes shots and band portraits for the band Glacier. They have a new album coming out, so it's slowly, but I shot Glacier and Less Aglow, for example, for almost every time they play, I'm usually at their show. And if one artist likes another artist, they usually try to help each other out, and
exactly, there's this symbiotic relationship that just, you end up being that person that they trust.
Yeah.
And you're an extra limb to the creature that is the band's entity.
Yeah, chances are, if you're first starting, you're not going to get paid. You're not going to get the cool jobs. You have to be really good at photography to maybe be the exception. But if you're just hey, I didn't get any cool assignments or a cover art proposal or anything like that.
At least 10 years in type thing.
Because at the same time, there's already other photographers that have been doing it way longer than me, that are way better than me. So it's they're going to get that gig before I would. So you have to just be in it and be part of it.
You got to love it. You got to love it in order to get there. You're there now. You're dropping this photo zine. Let's talk about that. It came out on October 31st. Over 250 pics from your 15 years in the pit. Talk to me about going through and choosing which pictures went into this. Even before that, let's talk about the concept of finally releasing something. Let's start with that. Where did this come from, this idea that you're going to put all these pictures of 15 years of career into one place and then release it?
I always like the idea of a photo book, and especially with the lack of attention span of Instagram. There's a lot on my profile, but are you really just going to endlessly scroll down? Probably not. And then the lack of details to maybe I didn't put any any information about the band or the show or the experience of these shots. So maybe that was just lost in time. I wanted something you could, keep. You can look back on it. If I shot your band, or if you were at that show, maybe you can look back and find yourself in a crowd shot, things like that. That maybe you knew I shot that show 8 years ago, but then it's are you going to go scrolling through my Instagram to hopefully you might find that show and might be able to, find you in a small, your phone, and you're trying to zoom in. Or you can download a PDF and, be able to blow it up, 3 times and really look into the crowd to, find yourself, things like that. It's just, like I said, keeping the memory alive.
Yeah, it's completely translates to why you started taking pictures in the first place, which I thought was super interesting.
So now there's so many photos that's how do I
choose
organize
at this point?
These?
Yeah.
And then it's I have other friends and, ask me hey, were you at this show? Do you have any photos? It's just I might have been there. Let me look. And so it's a a way to keep organized, a way to keep, the memories alive and not just part of a timeline that just fades away.
It's endless. Yeah.
So I figured, being the first book, it would just be the introduction, and it would start from, some of my first photos of going to Great Scott every week, to, where I'm going to try to have it, it goes to print very soon. So I'm trying to keep like the last section, like the last photos that I've took are more recent as possible.
And then how are you listing each picture? Are you like talking about the show that it was at, the band that was playing, and your experience there? Is that something that you're tying into it, or is it just the picture?
A little bit of both. It depends. There's going to be how the formatting and how some of the sections work. Some of it tells you about the bands and like more like deep involved, and some of it's just like galleries of like, here's an overall theme, here's death metal, and here's an array of death metal shows from, here's Cannibal Corpse from 5 different years, things like that. So it's a mixture of like specific shows, specific festivals, a throwback gallery of all the shots I've taken at Great Scott. Shows include, I've gotten Nails there, Caven has played there, Emma Ruth Rundle, Toxicology, like all these old bands that are still around. It's like, oh, I got Dave from Revocation looking super young because he was super young. Yeah, so it's like photos from 12 years ago, and now it's like, oh, if Revocation played a room that was like 250 capacity, that would be great. But yeah, it's and it's fun to look back at, like, oh, look at me, I didn't have tattoos. And now it's like, oh, now look at me. Like, oh, I used to have long hair. I forgot I had long hair. So it's just, it's the throwback in the memories and to showcase, the wide variety of music out there. I don't really cover mainstream all too much. I'm usually at the small shows, but, there's a lot to discover, and photographs help, that discovery process.
I think it's awesome, which is why we're having this conversation. Not that I wouldn't have wanted to have a conversation with you beforehand, but it just definitely piqued my interest. There was a pre-order. It is out at this point. Where can people get it now?
Yes. You can go through bananamasher.com to get it. I will have physical prints. I do pop-ups once in a while, but I'm not going to be in Barnes & Noble or anything like that. And just a do-it-yourself project. You can get it to me. I'll be the one packaging it and shipping it right back to you.
Hell yes, I love it. I think it's so goddamn interesting. Support art, support insane passion projects when people put 15 years into something. I think it's awesome. I think it's very, very incredible, everything that you've put into this and how you've honed in on your craft. And I remember scrolling through 4 or 5 years ago when you started sending me messages and being like, damn, this guy's shot everybody. And I was like, damn, I wish he could shoot me one day,
Unfortunately, I missed you, buddy. I keep a lookout. I mean, if you guys want to take me on tour, I'll shoot you every night, baby.
I would, oh, yes. I have one last question. It is the classic Vox and Hops wrap-up question. It probably doesn't happen to you very often, but every once in a while it happens to everyone. You are a bartender, and you have been for the past few years, so maybe you've had too much fun with some of your fun clients. What is your hangover cure?
Oh, man. Well, more recently, Widowmaker stocks Underbergs, even though I don't like them.
No, nobody likes them.
I found that to be a little helpful. I ruined a Jägermeister for myself when I was younger. So, like, even smelling an Underberg is a little bit rough for me.
They're very, very
never mind getting it down.
Yeah.
But otherwise, greasy pizza, a steak bomb, just something really greasy, moderately heavy. And maybe sleeping until 2 p.m.
Hell yes, that's the secret right there.
Yeah, just sleep late, take a shower, heavy meal, and then usually feel good after that.
Amazing. Matt, thank you so much for hanging out with me, talking about your life, talking about music, talking about photography, talking about working in the beer industry. I'm a big fan of what you do. I'm happy we finally had a chance to talk face to face, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you again soon.
Thank you, man. Party on.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right today. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, this was an awesome, awesome hang. So stoked to have finally met Matt, albeit not in the flesh, but a little bit closer because I actually got to speak to him sort of face-to-face thanks to the internet. Very, very excited about his new project. I'm super stoked that he's put together hundreds of pictures from his career, taking pictures for so many bands throughout so many years. Just a career-spanning glance at what he's been doing in the metal scene. Images from the pit, photographs taken from mosh pits. I just think it's so goddamn cool. You can go and grab yours now via the link that I have put in the description of this podcast. Very, very stoked that Matt has put this together, and I cannot wait to hang out with Matt face-to-face, hopefully very soon. Massive cheers to you, Matt, and everyone go grab a copy of Images from the Pit. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. It's just a career-spanning glimpse into everything that Matt has done for the metal scene. The Vox&Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts. I hope you have a killer rest of the week. I will be back next week with another episode on Thursday. But until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.